fascinating. Good afternoon, fellow mortals. New year, new political compass test. Isn't that exciting? Let's go. Before taking the test, please note that this isn't a survey and these aren't questions. They are propositions. To question the logic of individual ones that irritate you is to miss the point. Some propositions are extreme and some are moderate. That's how we can show you whether you lean towards extremism or moderation on the compass. Your responses should not be overthought. Some of them are intentionally vague. Their purpose is to trigger reactions in the mind, measuring feelings and prejudices rather than detailed opinions on policy. That's some fucking bullshit right there. We'll come back to that if we need to. Page 1 of 6. Just a few propositions to start with, concerning, no less, how you see the country and the world. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. LOL. I love how meaningless all these questions always are. But we take them for the meaning that they do have, of course, like a good human. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Trying to decide if I disagree or strongly disagree, because the framing of the question is incorrect, since there is no inherent contradiction between serving humanity and serving the interests of transnational corporations, in my view. It is possible for there to be contradictions there, but it isn't generally the case, so I'll say disagree. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Here I'm interpreting support to mean align with, and under that interpretation, I must of course say either disagree or strongly disagree. Which one do I want? Are there circumstances in which I would support my country despite it being wrong? It doesn't say despite, it says whether. I mean, there's of course a degree to which my country must be allowed to be wrong for me to be a reasonable person. And I am a patriot, so I won't strongly disagree, but I will disagree. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. No. The only question is, do I disagree or strongly disagree? It's incorrect because everyone should be proud of who they are. So just because you didn't choose where you came from doesn't mean you shouldn't take pride in it. And just like anything, too much is a bad thing. So country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I think I strongly disagree. Yeah, strongly disagree. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Every race can make that claim fairly. Or at least the vast majority of races. Extant races. So, I agree. Not a strong agree. Not a strong agree. Because all life forms are woefully inadequate at the present moment. Enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yes, of course. Are you fucking crazy? Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Sometimes means if it ever is, then you must agree. I don't like bowing to consensuses or pluralities or what have you, majorities, etc. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Strongly disagree. What do you mean now? It never wasn't. And it's not like it's an unfair thing. That people use it unfairly, that's a separate issue. Page 2 of 6. The economy. We're talking attitudes here, not the FTSE index. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. I do think people are divided a lot by both of those things. But I would no, that's not true. Disagree. Not a strong disagree, but definitely a disagree. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Controlling unemployment. Controlling inflation. Okay. After Googling it, I have decided that controlling inflation is much more important than controlling unemployment, because with low inflation, you can solve unemployment anyway. If you just play your cards right. Strong agree. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. To some degree, that's true. Sadly. From each according to his ability to each according to his own. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Notice they didn't say fundamentally good policy prescription. They just said good idea. So, in fact, they went out of their way to say they weren't talking policy and were talking ideas, attitudes, philosophy, in other words. And philosophically speaking, that proscription is accurate. It is correct. It is a good and true thing to say. It is something to aspire to. The phrase, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. However, it is not something to coerce people into performing. That's why I oppose leftism. That's why I am a conservative Republican centrist. Far-right centrist. Ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Strongly agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. And mind you, I want you to be very clear in your understanding that I strongly agree with that phrase, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. As a conservative, and that is not a contradiction to my conservatism in any way, because I oppose political leftism in all of its incarnations. I think, philosophically speaking, it's a good idea for people who can help others to do so. And I think that I have a few good ideas on how that can be accomplished in real life. But that's a topic for another time, I suppose. The freer the market, the freer the people. Do I agree with that, or do I strongly agree with that? Just agree. I mean, freedom can be curtailed in all sorts of ways, so that's definitely true, but it's not the be-all and end-all of truth. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled branded consumer product. Strongly disagree. That's just fucking ridiculous. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. What the fuck is that? That's some bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that. Land shouldn't be a commodity. Ridiculous. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. LOL. The mind-numbingly stupid incoherence of that fucking statement basically doesn't even deserve for me to explain why I strongly disagree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Yeah, that's true. People often will try to cheat you, and then you have to aggressively defend yourself in order to create a fair environment for yourself. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. The only? Oh, that's just patently absurd. It's clearly not true. I mean, it also has to follow the law. If they're defining social responsibility as a separate thing to following the law, then perhaps that gets a little more murky. Social responsibility. Okay, that's not a responsibility is not necessarily a requirement. Yeah, so I disagree. I do think that that's good enough, but I also don't think that that's good enough. I don't blame people that do that, but I am painfully aware of what those people are failing to do as well. Rich are too highly taxed. Strongly agree. The rich are too highly taxed. I said strongly agree. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. I said strongly agree. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I'm going to say agree. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Let's see, governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I said agree. A genuine market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Okay, I said agree. All right, page 3 of 6. Now we'll look at some of your personal social values. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Yes, that's true. I agree with that. All authorities should be questioned. Strongly agree. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Disagree, but not strongly. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Should not be expected to. Just because they shouldn't be expected to doesn't mean you can't ask them if they want to. So, yes, agree. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Alright, so for schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory, I said disagree. And for taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis, I said agree. Eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, I said disagree. All authorities should be questioned, strongly agree. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal, agree. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. So that's a weird question. Disagree with the framing of that question at a bare minimum. All people have their rights and would be less horrific, but is just ridiculous. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Disagree. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Agree strongly. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Agree. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Disagree. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Most important. I don't know about that. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Agree. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Agree. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Disagree. What's good for the most successful corporation is always ultimately good for all of us. Generally agree with that. No broadcasting institution, however independent its contents, should receive public funding. Public funding. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Whoops, my phone's about to die. LOL. I guess I'll have to make a part 2. Oh well.